Let's look at the adrenal axis. Like we said, the adrenal axis is the axis that is involved in the regulation of the of cortisol metabolism in the body. Now, look at how this whole thing. So I said cortisol is normally released in response to stress, but what first of all senses the stress is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus, on sensing that there is stress, releases the corticotropic releasing hormone from the hypothalamus, and then it goes to the anterior pituitary, where it binds to the receptors on the anterior pituitary and causes the anterior pituitary to release adrenocorticotropic hormone. And then the adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is released by the anterior pituitary, goes straight to the adrenal cortex, stimulate the adrenal cortex to release cortisol. And when the cortisol is released, it is diffused through the bloodstream and go to the various cells of the body, such as the cell of the liver, mobilize the release of glucose into the blood, and then trigger the gluconeogenetic enzymes to start the process of gluconeogenesis, which is the synthesis of glucose from non-carbohydrate sources such as protein and fatty acids. And then also this cortisol have a way of also causing the release of calcium from the bones into the blood. So it's a kind of catabolic hormone, a hormone that induces catabolism, breakdown of energy stores. So when there is excess cortisol, then what happens? There must be a negative feedback to regulate it and suppress its further production. That negative feedback, there are two types. You have the long loop negative feedback and the short loop negative feedback. The short loop negative feedback is where the cortisol goes to inhibit the receptors on the anterior pituitary and prevent the anterior pituitary from releasing ACTH. And then the long loop negative feedback is where the cortisol goes to the hypothalamus itself, which is the chairman, the chief, or the principal regulator. It goes there to inhibit the hypothalamus from releasing further corticotropic releasing hormone. And once that is done, the entire axis is shut down and cortisol level will be restored will be brought to normal and become very low. So this is what happens. So if there is a situation where this regulatory mechanism has been impaired, if there is a situation where the axis, the regulation of this axis, this hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis is impaired, then it will result in pathological condition. Hyperplasia. So this is a possible exam question on adrenal axis, laboratory assessment of adrenal function. So below is the laboratory result of three newborn babies or 3 patients, as the case may be. It says state the possible pathological condition that could be diagnosed from these results and give reasons for your answers. So look at it very well. The moment you see that plasma ACTH is low, plasma cortisol is low. Now identify them. Plasma ACTH means whatever is there is the pituitary you are looking at. Plasma cortisol, you are looking at the adrenal gland. Okay? CRH, corticotropic releasing hormone, you are looking at the hypothalamus. Now, the plasma ACTH is supposed to be produced by pituitary, right? And then plasma cortisol is supposed to be produced by the adrenal gland. Now, if plasma ACTH is low, of course, in a normal state, the plasma cortisol should also be low. So, where is this problem coming from? It means that the pituitary is not producing enough. The pituitary is not producing enough ACTH, and that is the organ. He is the one responsible for this case now. So this case is a clear case of secondary adrenal hyperfunction, secondary adrenal insufficiency. It's a clear case of secondary Addison's disease. Okay, so look at it here. So either you say this is a case of secondary adrenal hyperfunction, or secondary adrenal insufficiency, or secondary Addison's disease. Or you can say Addison's disease. Okay. So it just is secondary adrenal hypofunction. Then to further confirm that it is from the pituitary, for the problem to rule out the fact that this adrenal hypofunction or adrenal insufficiency is actually caused by the pituitary, you do what is called ACTH stimulation using cosinatrine test. There is what is called cosinatrine. When you administer it, it is expected that it should act on the pituitary to induce the pituitary to actually produce ACTH. But if you do the ACTH stimulation and you notice that ACTH stimulation that does not have any effect, the ACTH is still low, then it means that the problem is actually is a confirmation that yes, this pituitary is having problem. There is pituitary insufficiency. So this is where the pituitary function. So if you now do CRH stimulation is actually supposed to be a test of the hypothalamus. So if you do hypothalamus and then the CRH stimulation has no effect, then it means that actually it is the pituitary, because the stimulation from the CRH is supposed to act. The CRH is supposed to act on the pituitary and cause pituitary to do what? To produce ACTH. But in this case, even after administering the CRH, the pituitary still remains low. Okay, so in this case, you are going to say that this is a case of secondary adrenal hypofunction. Secondary adrenal hypofunction. Now, in a case where the patient So in the second case now, you have the patient 2 where the plasma ACTH is low, plasma cortisol is low, urinary free cortisol is low, then ACTH stimulation is now normal. So you stimulated the ACTH and it was able to, it was normal. That means that the ACTH in a normal sense, the pituitary under normal circumstances is not, the pituitary is okay. Because if you give a stimulant to the pituitary and it was able to produce enough ACTH, it means that the pituitary is okay. But it means that there is something that's supposed to, the hormone which is supposed to stimulate the pituitary is not working. Now, if you give CRH, I get what I'm saying, and the CRH did not have any effect. Okay, in this case, you administer CRH, it didn't have any, there was no stimulation. Okay, because the CRH stimulation is supposed to make the hypothalamus to produce CRH. So if there is no stimulation, even after you have administered CRH stimulant, then it means that the problem is from the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is not responding, it is insensitive, there is hypothalamus resistance. So that is where the problem is. The hypothalamus is not responding to stimulation. It's not producing enough CRH. That is why, because it's not producing enough CRH, definitely the pituitary cannot produce enough ACTH, and that is why you see ACTH is low. And then, of course, the adrenal gland, which is supposed to be acted on by the ACTH, also is receiving nothing. So in this case, you are going to see a case of tertiary adrenal hypofunction. Tertiary adrenal hypofunction. Now, in this last one, you are seeing that plasma ACTH is high in the patient 3, plasma cortisol is low, urinary free cortisol is low. Now, if plasma ACTH is high and plasma cortisol is low, it means that the plasma cortisol is not responding to the ACTH that the pituitary hormone is producing. It's not responding, it's resistant to it, And in that case, the problem is actually the adrenal gland. And once the problem is from the adrenal gland, it is a primary adrenal hyperfunction. In fact, that is a clear case of Addison's disease. Okay, a clear case of Addison's disease. All right. So you see, now if you do ACTA stimulation, it's normal, showing that the pituitary is normal. If you do CRH stimulation, it's normal. So the pituitary and the hypothalamus, they are normal, but where the problem now lies is in the adrenal gland. So this is a clear case of adrenal insufficiency or adrenal hyperfunction, primary adrenal hyperfunction, precisely primary adrenal hyperfunction, also known as Addison's disease. All right. Now we have this one by the left, this one by the right is a laboratory subjective case of adrenal hyperfunction. Look at it. It's adrenal. You can now establish what is the cause of the adrenal hyperfunction. Is it primary? Is it secondary? Okay, so that is it. So look at it very well. You see that when there is increased plasma cortisol, it is a case of hyperfunction. And when there is adrenal hyperfunction, another name for this is Cushing syndrome. If adrenal hyperfunction is as a result of the adrenal gland, it is called Cushing syndrome. If adrenal hyperfunction is as a result of the pituitary, it is called Cushing's disease. Then if adrenal hyperfunction is as a result of cancer elsewhere or tumor elsewhere, it is ectopic Cushing disease or ectopic Cushing disease. So that is what we call it. So I think we'll stop here for today. Next time we shall continue. Thank you very much.